Hello and welcome to Scrolling with Ceazor. Today is April 7th, 2026. I've got a lot of news, well, not as much as in the past. I'm trying to curate it a little bit better and shorten these down to below 30 minutes. Hopefully I can get around 20 minutes. But anyhow, let's get right into it. So as always, this is not financial advice. This is just some news that happened to come across my desk and some ideas and thoughts of my own based on that news. So taking a quick look at the charts, both ETH, BTC, gold, everything is down today. Gold's not down as bad as the other things. It's kind of sideways compared to yesterday's high. But ETH and BTC have retracted and lost even more than where they ended yesterday. So down 1.4%. BTC is down 1%. Hype is down half a percentage, and gold is down less than 0.1%. So hopefully you're providing liquidity somewhere on these tokens, and you're getting some trading fees as well as some staked APR and stuff, and not holding spot through this crab. The crab's been going on for pretty long, so we're looking at a crab of let's measure this out quickly. We're looking at a crab of like 60 days already, so 2 months of just sideways crabbing for the most part. Anyhow, so let's get right into the news. So the first one here we have Tay. Tay is he's surprised. So Drift dropped an article that is like a post-mortem, a little bit more deeper understanding of how the Drift attack was orchestrated and all of the details of that attack. You can read that article if you want to understand deeper how it was going. So Tay retweeted it and said, he's kind of surprised that it wasn't just a case of social engineering. Likely some like some you want a job, join my my call. Oh, the call doesn't work, so download this and that kind of thing. But he said it's not the case. It was a much deeper thing. So to give you a little TLDR, if you don't want to read this article, but basically the North Korean hackers, or whoever these hackers happen to be, they spent like 6 months infiltrating Drift, and they came in as their own wash trading trading firm, and they were like, oh, we're going to provide a service for you. They put $1 million into that account. They were wash trading a token. They were working with the team as a proper business development partnership, and somehow they encouraged, or they socially engineered, or whatever you want to say. They got the actual team to sign those multi-sig transactions, and then on April 1st they did that. They initiated or executed those multi-sig signed transactions. So now it still sounds like social engineering to me, but it's not a get on this call and then you've lost your powers, and then they immediately hacked it. No, they put in some time and also put in some money, and built up some trust. Okay, so he's saying that the depth of this operation makes him think that maybe there are other teams that are already kind of exposed to these guys, and so forth. So anyhow, you can think about that. Do what you got to do. Reduce risk. Go with teams that can't just pull all the funds out with an admin key. It's kind of simple as that. The admin keys are just too powerful in some of these protocols, because they have the ability to maybe pull out all of the funds of a protocol, or upgrade the protocol to something else. These kind of admin powers are just a little bit too crazy, and especially if it's just a small little multi-sig, a 2 of 5 security multi-sig, and just 2 people of the 5 people need to sign to have a major drainage of everything. That's kind of high risk in my opinion. Okay, so you kind of have to do some due diligence on that to figure out if the places you're putting your tokens are of that level of risk. Okay, so moving on. So Pandora has a whole bunch of I was looking at Pandora's questions today, and I'm very surprised by this. Like, it makes me think a little bit about, like, so Pandora is like a Polymarket type competitor, but it's completely permissionless. Anyone can make any question they want. AI helps them to design the question so it has a proper binary outcome. The oracles are, AI does the oracle like outcome resolution, and then it can still be disputed. But anyhow, so I was kind of going through it, and I was looking at the TVL on these, and the TVL of some of these questions is surprisingly low. I find like the amount of TVL on Polymarket compared to the amount of TVL here, it's drastic. It's very, very different. And I find that to be kind of bizarre. I find that strange because, like, of course, Polymarket is funding a lot of their own questions, right? And they're farming their own TVL. They're farming their own questions in their own volume and stuff like that. So they're kind of specialized in that. And if you make a question here, then you have to fund the market. So it's an individual instead of like an entity. But I'm surprised that no teams have kind of like started to curate questions, or like communities or something like that can kind of pool money together and create questions. Maybe I'm going to try to, I'll talk to my communities and see if they want to kind of hop in here and maybe do some questions on this, and we can have some fun with it. We'll see. Okay, so anyways, you can still check it out. There are a lot of questions here that you can still bet on. Now, obviously, you can't bet with $1 million on a question that has $1,000 in TVL or $3,000 of volume. So yeah, of course. So think about that. Check it out. Have some fun. I do have a video on this if you want to understand how these things work. I did do a full Ceazor snack sandwich deep dive on it. Okay, moving on. So Immunify has tweeted out that they have a Immunify bug bounty for Alchemix version 3 contracts. Again, I have a video on Alchemix v3 on my snack sandwich if you want to find out what are the differences. Right now, Alchemix is currently doing a migration from v2 to v3. You have to do nothing. Your funds are going to get migrated by the team. It's kind of too late now if you don't want that. It's too late to pull out now, so you have to kind of wait, right? But they have a bug bounty, and you can go into their Discord and test out their front end. It'll be testing in prod with actual real money, but you do use $10 or $5 or something like that, and give them feedback and explain to them little issues in the front end that you feel like can be improved, clarity and so forth like that. Okay, so check that out. I consider you, like, if you have some positions in Alchemix, I would highly suggest you go and try the front end a little bit, give them some feedback and improve that user experience. Okay, moving on. So here we have Thomas Perfumo, CFA, Thomas.eth, whatever. So he's tweeted out something that kind of got me and made me think a little bit. So he says USDC and USDT stablecoin supply totals $2.62 billion, nearly unchanged since January. So the whole first quarter of this year, it's pretty sideways. The supply, the input of new capital into cryptocurrency has kind of like leveled out. So I think there's like that's kind of an indicator of a bear market. You never see, like, if you go all the way back to 2020, you never see any real dips. Like the stablecoin supply never really goes down. It goes down a little bit in 2023, but nothing significantly. And it's only up or sideways. And now we're into sideways. Now I don't know how long, like this channel here of like from 2022 till 2024, that's like 2 years of just sideways crabbing, no new capital coming in. So if that happens to be the case where we are now, that we get 2 years of stablecoin supply just crabbing, then we might not see any kind of bull market for a while. Like the asset prices will not increase. Now there are other ways for the asset prices to increase other than the stablecoin supply increasing, but the stablecoin supply increasing is a good indicator of the possibility that the assets can go up. So I feel a little bit sad about that, but we never know. It could go sideways for a couple more days, and then just something might happen in the world, and then it goes ballistic. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about stablecoins near the end of the show, so I will come back to this thought a little bit. So here we are talking about. So we got Sam CZ Sun. He's like, if he says basically, if you really care about what happened with the drift attack, then please donate to seal.org. Now, Seal is it's a security firm for crypto, and some of the things it does is like, number one is it has like 24/7 emergency instance and like instance response hacks type things. So it'll monitor like protocols that join the Seal team or the Seal thing. It'll monitor them for hacks and exploits 24/7. It gives it like real-time threat intelligence. So, it's tracking wallet drainers and state actors, this kind of stuff. It coordinates with other platforms as well. There's open source security standards and best practices. So all kinds of stuff that this thing will help protocols to be safer. I did ask if I did do a little research to find out, does this thing like actually look at like stuff that require like the drift hack, for example, like the admin powers are the key thing right now that people are talking about, like protocols having too much power, teams having too much power over the protocol to drain funds and stuff like that. So I asked AI specifically what like if Seal addresses this issue, because obviously the auditing firms are not addressing it. They might address it, but they're not disclosing it publicly and so forth. So I asked what does Seal do for this, and here are some of the things that I was returned. So I'll bring it over actually. So let me bring it right into the screen. So here we go. So we got operational security framework, includes governance, risk management and control domains, multi-sig and protocols, direct arrest is privileged, operations, signer management and emergency controls. Infrastructure covers identity and access management, zero trust principles, external security reviews and security testing, guidance on preparing for reviews and that often flag bad admin designs. So that's the key thing I'm trying to say. So if a team does kind of take on Seal as one of their security partners or security services, then you can know that at least the Seal is actually trying their best to help them to avoid as much risk as possible, not just code works as intended. Okay, so moving on to Shafu here. Shafu says a few things. You can read through this. You can pause it and read it if you want. But basically, he's saying like he's been in DeFi for a long time, but he's feeling like why should I take on any kind of like smart contract risk when the yield in DeFi does not beat the yield in the banks or in kind of risk-free stuff, right? Like, so he says, I'm seriously considering moving everything to my bank account, which is crazy to think about. And I can relate to what he's saying. I have moved significant amounts of my assets off chain into my bank account, into a neobank, because it's like paying me 3%, and it's like, it's I wouldn't say risk free, but it's a lot less risky, and it's a savings account, so I can immediately pull in and out into my checking account, pay my credit cards, pay for my stuff, and it's 3%, which is decent enough, right? Like obviously I can get better than 3% in crypto, but I have to take on significantly more risk and or management, right? So moving on, I'm going to continue with this thread. So he says the bad, right? And then Millie replies to another person, Santiago Santos, all right, about why yield is better, why DeFi yield is superior. And I'm not going to read all of it, but I will like read his headings, his little points here, and I agree with him on this. So DeFi yield is composable, so you get a lot more opportunity or options with yield. And he uses his example of Truio. So if you go to Truio and you want to bet on the Truio markets, then you can actually bet with a yield-bearing stablecoin. Whereas to try to build a yield interest rates into a TradFi gambling, so you get interest rates on your deposits into a gambling platform, that's super hard in TradFi because the banks don't want you to do that, and they stop it. And so in DeFi we can do this, and there's nothing the banks can do to stop it, right? Because it's like immutable or permissionless and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so here there's another couple things. So he says you can only access the overnight risk-free rate through a custodian that can play silly games with you. So yeah, in order to get the really good yield in the banks, you kind of have to be a privileged person. And whereas in DeFi, you have complete, it's completely permissionless. We don't care who you are. You don't have to be privileged. You just have to understand it and do a little research. And if you're using something that doesn't have any kind of blacklist abilities, you're actually even safer, especially for me. Like the Canada a little while ago decided to freeze all the truckers' bank accounts. If the truckers had the money in these overnight risk-free rate positions, that would have been frozen too, right? So there's that. The overnight rate isn't really overnight. Redemptions take 30 days. So this is another good example. So if you do like a kind of thing like GIC. In a bank, at least where I am in Canada, if you do a GIC and you're like, oh, I need some of the money out of that GIC today, even if you choose one that's redeemable, then you get less APR, right? And when you exit, you forfeit all your APR up to that date. So like if I put it in today, and it was a 1 year, and in 6 months I pull that money out, I lose all that 6 months of interest. They just keep it. They don't give it to me. Whereas in Aave or, SDAI or any of these Yearn tokens and stuff like that, you can take out whenever you want. And when you take out, you're almost up to the block. There might be a small case where, you lose a couple blocks of harvest depending on the Volt token that you're in. But for the most part, you're up to the block, up to the second. Your yield is already yours. And whenever you take out, you get your yield up to the second. And that's a huge benefit for crypto, I think. So I agree with Millie on this. You can check out Santiago's tweet. And again, he's like saying, the risk is high. Why take the risk when you can get roughly the same in the banks and stuff like that? And it's a good message. I agree with both of them, because like pushing like for better design, better yield is like expecting better yield in crypto is not a terrible thing, because that'll attract more people to the ecosystem. But if everyone starts pulling out, then the yield might go down. Now, let me explain it. So if they just pull out, if less people are lending money, the yield's going to go up. But what he's talking about is probably also less people levering. So less people borrowing will then decrease it. Okay, so we want people using, we want people borrowing, we want people CDPing and maybe not levering up, but at least doing like looping up, but at least doing a small amount of leverage. Okay, so I'll give you some options in a second. So here we have Tangent Finance. I don't know very much about Tangent Finance, and I want to know more, but I can't find out a lot right now. It says it's launching soon. It's building USG, your favorite CDP stablecoin. So they're building a stablecoin, a CDP stablecoin. I'd like to know more. But why I'm sharing this is because they have decided to use FRAX, FRXUSD, as their right side coin. So instead of only using like USDC or Tether as their other coin, they're also going to use this FRXUSD as their counterparty within their PegKeeper system. So I like this. I'm just showing this because it's like the pool is already live on Curve Finance. So I'm finding it a little bit strange. They don't have an app. I haven't seen a website to go to. I haven't done a whole lot of research. It's something I'm going to have to look at a little bit more. But yeah, so the peg pool is already live on Curve with USG FRX USD, and it just goes to show that Frax continues to grow its footprint, and its stablecoin continues to be adopted by lots of different projects and stuff like that. And I like that. Okay, moving on. So another stable coin I really like is Liquidity Bold. I talk about this all the time, of course. And he's like, oh, how can you get paid 7% to hold Lido WST ETH? So there are a 3-step process here. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So you use WST ETH and you're earning 2.4%-ish on your yield. You borrow Bold at a fixed rate of 1.4%, or, you can have that fixed rate. You can change that fixed rate to something that's adjustable. It's an adjustable rate, but you can decide to use a fixed rate if you want. And then you can provide that Bold and USDC to Uniswap liquidity position and earn roughly 10%. And after you do all the math, you're looking at around 7% APR on that ETH, right? Now, this doesn't compound already for you. It's not going to turn your yield into more WST ETH, right? But I've heard news that like Yearn as well as iPor Labs are going to be doing a carry trade for you. So basically, they're going to actually take the yield and compound it into more of the collateral asset. So maybe the collateral asset might be ETH, it might be WST ETH or Rocket Pool ETH, but they're going to run that soon. I know there's currently audits going on, so I'm looking forward to that. There is a live test in prod vault already doing this on one of the Yearn test in vaults, but I'm not going to share that live. If you really want to find that and try that out, you got to dig a little bit deeper because it is test in prod unaudited stuff. So yeah, check it out. I do something similar to this. I use Rocket Pool ETH, but then I'm also providing to Curve instead of Uniswap, and I just don't feel like migrating, even though the Uniswap has a higher interest right now than a Curve pool. But anyways, moving on. So Yield Basis has dropped their new Yield Basis hybrid vault. Now I did do a video on it. You can check my channel for that video. I thought it was here, but yeah, you can check I have a video explaining how these vault works. But to give you a simple explanation, is in order to improve the stability of CRV USD, this hybrid vault allows for additional ETH or WBTC to be staked into the yield basis positions, as long as the person brings some CRV USD. So you get some CRV USD and you stake it in the vault with your ETH, right? Your ETH goes to yield basis and does that leveraged up yield basis thing. I have a video if you don't want to understand it. But then your CRV USD also gets staked for CRV USD. Now I have a video that explains it all if you really want to understand how it works, but it's a way to like encourage a healthier peg, because people have to get some CRV USD and add that to the system as well, instead of just putting ETH or BTC or whatever. Currently right now you can only use ETH, right? And they're doing it like they've got caps on this as well. But yeah, so it's now live. You can try it out if it's something you want to check out. It's a little bit harder to enter because, like I said, you have to bring in some CRV as well as some ETH, right? Instead of just, you can kind of consider like the same kind of user experience of having to provide liquidity to a liquidity pool. You can kind of think of it like that as opposed to like what you have to do, but it's not doing that. It's not creating a liquidity pool. It's very different. Like I explained how it works. Okay, moving on. So here we have Clouted. So Clouted is like voluntary. So what's this? So he's talking about the EU's digital identity wallet coming soon. It's voluntary. But then he's like, yeah, okay, it's voluntary unless you want to travel, go to a restaurant, take a walk in the park, drive your car, exit your house, access the internet, make payments. Don't worry. The police will check it out. And he's like, I don't understand, like all of this kind of surveillance and like dictatorship type stuff is like just keeps dropping all over the world, especially in like Europe and so forth. And crypto is not pumping. And he's like, I don't understand why crypto doesn't pump when you've got like so much of this kind of stuff just dropping like crazy. And I agree with him. Like it's like do they really, like they'll say it's voluntary, but in order to do anything, like the same with me. Like the COVID shot was voluntary, but in order for me to fly back to Canada, fly home, I had to get it. I couldn't fly back without getting the COVID shots. So it's like it's voluntary, but not if you want to participate in life, right? So anyhow, moving on. So the last bit of news here, we have Omar from Chaos Labs. He's got a long article on why Chaos Labs is leaving Aave. You can read through this whole thing, of course. It's not brand new news. It's pretty new though, and we see a lot. And it's basically, it comes down a lot to money, as far as I can tell. There's a lot to read here, but like to give you a little TLDR, it's like Chaos Labs is going to leave. They say, oh, we don't agree with the risk management strategy of V4. But I don't understand. Maybe they can continue to work with V2 and V3. So it says they managed risk on V2 and V3, but now V4 is here and they don't agree with that. There is some tweets out there that now they're going to work with Morpho and they're going to curate vaults on Morpho instead. I do think Morpho is a pretty good... it has the potential to be a lot less risky than the Aave system. It's a little more battle-tested code. It's not new code, as well as it's very isolated. You have to be selective, though. You have to be very selective on Morpho, whereas on Aave, you kind of trusted it in Chaos Labs doing the due diligence and stuff like that. Now, of course, there's some money in it. There's got to be some money involved in this. If, like, I don't know, like that, but they say they're walking away from like millions of dollars that Aave was paying them because they don't agree with the new model. So check it out. Like they literally say somewhere here that money is secondary. Like they're leaving because they don't agree with the risk profile of V4. Now I did do a video on V4, so you can watch that if you want to understand how V4 potentially works. But as always, you got to do more due diligence than just watch my video, right? But anyhow, so there's a lot in here. You can check this out. So as far as I can tell, they're going to start curating loans or curating a vault on Morpho, and maybe that will be actually a fantastic possibility, a fantastic place to trust your assets based on Chaos Labs' history of curating Aave V2 and V3. Okay, so check it out, and that's it for today. I hope this has been useful, and thank you, and goodbye.